One.
How you doing? Taylor Barton here with the 7-on-7 and 5-on-5 Association. We are here for our pre-tournament podcast, Battle at the Border, Vancouver, Washington. It's going down this weekend. Got Brandon Huffman. If you have lived under a rock, don't know who he is. Even if you've lived under a rock, you still probably know who he is. But if you live under a rock, and don't know who he is, Brandon Huffman, National Recruiting Editor of 247 Sports. Huff, how you doing, big man?
Doing good. And we can be friends if you don't know who I am. That's actually cool. I like people that don't know me.
You know what? But there was one person that was under a rock, that didn't know who you were. They were in Hawaii, but then somehow you kind of name dropped it in that you've been to Hawaii recently. And so you ran into them on the beach. And so now they know who you are.
You go to the rock, you get people from under the rock.
Yeah. It's a running joke that Huff, he travels around. He's at the Army All-American game in Texas, and he's in the Poly All-American and in Hawaii, like everywhere. Like somehow Huff will do these like backhanded like complaints, but at the same time is like the biggest flex of all time. So if you hear that in this episode, just it'll put a grin on your face knowing that somehow he always like just wedges it in there.
I'm a traveling man.
Okay, so Huff, will hop into this crazy stat. Give that stat to people, because I want them to understand first, like, we joke around, you're a good dude, but like you're a grinder. Talk about the start of the year. You were mentioning nights in a hotel, nights traveling. Give that stat just so people understand like what you're out really doing.
Well, I've already hit MVP for the year on Alaska Airlines. Already went over the 20,000 mile barrier, and I did that on February 11th. So my next step is, gold, and which I've been 75K the last couple of years. I might actually hit 100K this year, which would be the first time I got to like 96 one year, just missed it. But yes, by the end of February, out of the 60 nights in 24, I will have been home for 29 nights and in a hotel for 31. All of my rollover nights from 2023, I think will have me diamond by like the middle of March. And it's not like a flex. That means, I've been gone a lot. And I swear to God, Taylor, I've had a cold since like the state championship weekend was the last weekend. It was the first weekend of December. That was the last weekend I had no football, anything events. And I'm tired.
And that's what I'm going to get you as your next birthday gift. I'm going to get you that little bubble that the parents sit in on the stands in the rain. They just zip it up. That's going to be Huff. And we'll get a name tag so everyone knows where you're at, so they can just come knock on the little your little.
You don't need to put my name out there. There's no need.
So let's hop into this. We got our third annual Battle at the Border in Vancouver. This was always a really fun tournament. Great location. We got Heritage High School. Shout out to Kevin Peterson, the head coach there, helping facilitate this beautiful facility. 2 full turf football fields. We have a full turf baseball outfield that will have our 5-on-5 going in. So it's going to be an absolutely incredible event. We've got about 80 teams total. We got teams coming up from Southern California, Northern California, Boise, Idaho, Washington, Canadian border. Going to be a lot of fun, a lot of great programs, a lot of great teams. We have a lot of the same programs and teams from our first tournament, our Space Needle Shootout. That was a fun tournament. We have a few new ones. So want to jump right into it. We brought Huff on here as he's the specialist in recruiting and knows what kids eat for breakfast and what their favorite, clothes they wear on a Tuesday are. So let's get his expertise here.
How about playing the long game, brother? Evaluating everything.
Love it. Okay, so 7-on-7. Let's pop into it. You're in one of our favorite programs and program coordinators in all of this industry every year. Just truly good dudes that run a great program, have great talent, but just do it the right way. KT Prep out of the Bay Area, run by Nathan Kenyon and Julian Kenyon. Huff, talk a little bit about that program, maybe some of the historical content, text of it, and then some of the kids they got this year.
Yeah, so in fact, I just was at the KT Prep Baby Strong tournament that they've done for the last few years in Northern California. They made it to the championship game. Good little program. They've had a little bit of talent, like one of the best safeties in the NFL, Javon Holland. There has probably not been a better program in terms of tight ends that has existed on the West Coast than them. They had Devin Asiasi, who was a third round draft pick of the New England Patriots, plays for the Cincinnati Bengals now in one of their earlier years. Eric Kromenhoek played for the Los Angeles Chargers. And then they got a guy that played for them a couple of years ago named Brock Bowers. If you've been living under the same rock where you didn't know who I am, then you probably have no idea who Brock Bowers was. Only the first two-time Mackey Award winner, will be a top 10 pick, will compete with Kyle Pitts and I think Eric Ebron as the highest tight end drafted ever. He's pretty good. And born and bred KT Prep product. And then they've got two legit tight ends this year. And a third guy that is waiting for his first offer, could be an outside backer that I've gotten a chance to see a couple times. That kid's name is Logan Knapp, plays at Clayton Valley in Concord. Tony Keck, one of his teammates, who we first saw, you and I mentioned him, but he's an 8th grader. Came up and played for Maurice Jones-Drew team as a young kid. He's got offers already. And then Kellen Ford, he's got double-digit offers. Kellen Ford actually has strong ties to the Northwest. His mom played soccer at University of Washington. Dad played football at Washington State University. Sister plays beach volleyball at UCLA. So he's got some West Coast ties, but he plays at Monte Vista High School, same high school that Kromenhoek played at. And then Zach Ertz, who was a multi-year Pro Bowler. So a great tight end program. They got a quarterback that we saw as an 8th grader a couple of years ago, Mikey Mitchell. 5'11" kid, can absolutely spin it. Deuce Jones-Drew, Maurice Jones-Drew's son, plays a little bit of nickel for them. He's a freshman. He's a 2027. Plays some nickel, plays some receiver. They've got a lot of talent on that team. And so I'm excited to see them over the course of the spring at a number of events. We'll be in LA in a couple of weeks as well. But always, one of the most prominent teams in Northern California year in and year out. As you said, Nate and Julian do a great job. Devin Nunes. We got to see Mo was at the battle tournament a couple weeks ago. Maurice was a little bit preoccupied last week with the Super Bowl, but the week before that, he was at the battle tournament calling the offensive plays. And so now he's getting involved in, Maurice Jones-Drew knows a thing or two about football.
I was going to say, they might want to pick his brain on just some ideas, concepts, thoughts. I think it'd be a good idea. Pretty good resource to him.
Exactly.
Yeah, great program. And Mitchell, just to throw that out there, you talk about the tight ends. They also had so many great quarterbacks. Jaden Rashada. One year they had Jaden Rashada and Luke Duncan. Jaden Rashada, obviously at Arizona State. Luke Duncan, UCLA. And then Mitchell was, I think, an 8th grader at the time, or freshman.
But he was playing with their freshman team that tournament.
Correct. And they were talking about him. And that's where Julian and Nate, they're spot on, because Jaden Rashada was the high-profile guy. And they kept saying, hey, Luke Duncan, we saw him at our Space Needle shootout couple years ago, and they're like, hey, he can spin it, he's real deal. This was before he was blowing up, and then he blew up at our battle at the beach. And then Mitchell, they were pointing at, and they're like, and he's going to be a stud. So that, like, credibility means something in this industry, and I think that's what we're talking about with Nate and Julian. And
for some context on Mitchell, he set the West Catholic Athletic League record for most passing yards in a season. That league has a school called Sarah High School. They had a quarterback there one time named Tom Brady. Yeah. You might be familiar with him. So again, don't be a stat scout, but that's the kind of rare air you're talking about there. So yes, the credibility is absolutely there. So
let's jump from Northern Cal down to Southern Cal. Our guy, Coach Frank, love him, and his group, the Nighthawks, coming up from Orange County. And they were at the Avery Strong Showcase last year, brought a bunch of kids, and all of them ended up getting offers, multiple offers. They've got dudes on dudes on dudes. So talk a little bit, Huff, about the Nighthawk program and some of those kids.
Yeah, so the Nighthawks, that was Coach Frank, great guy. In fact, the first time I actually saw them was at the Pylon tournament 3 years ago. They made it to the championship game of that tournament, lost to Rebel Squad, who we'll see in a couple of weeks in Northern California. And it was primarily Orange Lutheran kids. Orange Lutheran, one of the top programs in California. In fact, they played Eastside Catholic this year and shut out Eastside Catholic. Down in Southern California, AJ Ia, one of the top tight ends in the state. We mentioned Kellen Ford and Tony Keck. They're Northern California. AJ Ia is a Southern Californian. They've got a lot. Benjamin Aleo, who's got he was offered, I think, by Washington at the event last year. So a really good team, really good program. My colleague Blair Angulo saw them a couple weeks ago at a tournament down there and said, hey, they haven't skipped a beat. Really, really strong.
Yeah, and mentioned TJ Latif was in that group that came up to the showcase, and one of those guys that just blew up, put his top 7 out, and it's a who's who list. So in that group, not all of them are traveling with the team, but a lot are, and so it just goes to the strength of that group. The Nighthawk program, the Orange Lutheran, high school program. So going to be a lot of fun having them up. They're doing this tournament, KT Prep, and both are going to be doing our Battle at the Beach in LA in 2.5 weeks. So fun to see a lot of the programs that are coming doing multiple tournaments, and you get to see them in the different areas. Let's talk a couple Northwest programs that have some kids. Air, run by Reggie Jones out of Puyallup, Washington, have had kids coming through every single year, a very consistent program. Reg does a great job. Talk about some of the headliners on Air this year. I know Epperson is I think the biggest name, but there's multiple that are very talented and have offers.
Yeah, obviously Epperson, a 4-star player, one of the top players in the state, a top 3 player in 2025. But they got a really good young core. 2026 is Josiah Denmark, has a handful of offers already. He's a 2026 who's now at Puyallup High School. Joey Thomas III is at Kennedy Catholic, has a number of offers as well. He's also 2026. He was one of the DB MVPs at the Averstrong Showcase last June. Tristan Baker has a couple of offers. He's at Lakes High School in Lakewood. Those are probably the 3 most prominent. Tavian Collins of 2027. Who is at Puyallup as well, already has an offer himself. So some good young talent. That's a very young team. They lost from last year. A good chunk of their talent was in the 2023 class, and they were pretty young on the circuit last year. Still won a couple of tournaments, but they are really young. So I think they made it to the finals at the Space Needle Shootout with a pretty non-veterans laden squad.
Yeah, and they have their youth programs, Reggie's son Dash and his quarterback Corday, that whole group, Megatron, they're going to be special coming up. So over the next couple of years, I think Air's going to continue to keep elevating in what they're doing. Now, you talked about the Space Needle Shootout Championship. Air played in and lost to Big 12, run by Jamar Howard, who Jamar, Big 12, based out of Vancouver, Washington, but they have a bunch of Oregon kids, Southwest Washington, and he's actually drawn in kids nationally as well. And they got some heavy hitters, kids on their roster. So we'll talk about them in 5-on-2, but let's stay on their 7-on program and what Jamar's doing. I think this is a program who has emerged nationally as a national brand now with the talent they have and what they're doing. So talk a little bit on them.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about a young class, they've got a pretty young team. In fact, wasn't it their 2026 team that won the Space Needle Shootout? They've got some good 25s like Landon Kelsey, Ja'Kai Clardy. Those 2 guys have multiple offers. Tight end Austin Simmons, he's gotten his first few offers in the last couple of weeks. They've also got, who's the other kid that? They had another 25 that just got a few offers in the last couple of weeks, but their strength is in their 2026 class. They've got Lamarcus Bell from Lake Oswego. They've got Ansu Sano, the top 100 kid, double-digit offers. 4-star in 2026, Brock Harris, who's a top 2 tight end nationally in 2026. Originally from Portland, now plays in Southern Utah. Already been invited to both the All-American Bowl and the Under Armour All-American game as a 26. They had the Pula twins, Jaron and Keenan, who are both out of Timpview High School in Provo in the state of Utah. So there's probably their best team is really Elijah Durr, who's out of Mount Tahoma. Our boy Keith Terry, the head coach there at Mount Tahoma. He's a big reason why they made it to the state playoffs this year for the first time, I think, in 39 years. So he's got some Washington kids, some Oregon kids, some Utah kids, and they kind of stormed through the Space Needle Shootout.
Yeah, they did. They're real, and that's why I'm excited to see this tournament with Air wanting a rematch, and now you got KT Prep coming in and Nighthawks coming in, and so the stakes keep getting higher and higher, the competition tougher and tougher. So going to be really fun to see who walks away with the hardware this weekend. Now that was 7-on. Let's flip the script over to some 5-on-5 now, and really excited. This is our biggest 5-on-5 tournament, 20 teams. We're going to have an awesome setup on the baseball turf outfield, all the branding out there, the music. We got the 5-on-5 crews going. We got 5th, 6th grade division, 7th, 8th, and high school. So going to be a lot of fun. Let's talk on the high school, a couple programs. And let's start out with Boise Tropics. Jake, I believe it's Pele or
Yeah.
Pell, has coordinated that group. They got 2 teams coming out. He's doing a great job, one of the best line trainers in the Northwest, and got this group coming out. He's very organized, sharp, running it well, and they got some heavy hitters themselves. So talk a little bit about them.
Yeah, and Jake's a local guy. He's from Auburn, went to Auburn Riverside High School, then played, I want to say, at Idaho State. Now he's running a team kind of down in the eastern part of Idaho. He's got some good young talent on there. Jax Tanner is excuse me, an offensive lineman who I think he was the first 2026 in the state of Idaho to land an offer. He is one of the kind of the main guys on that team. Shepherd Fish, there's a lot of good talk about him. Rowan Rupp is a defensive lineman, can be a 3-tech defensive end, edge guy. So they got some really good youth on that team. Fish is a 2025. Rupp and Tanner are both 2026s.
The AEP, we got Coach Ava, another legend that everybody knows and loves, does a great job training linemen. AEP is coming down. They're kind of, are they the Puyallup area? Is that where they're based out of? So Huff, talk a little bit about that program and some of the kids they got coming.
Yeah, so AEP has long had a presence in the South King County, Northern Pierce County area. A few years ago during COVID, they would do some workouts, and I get a chance to go see, and, guys were ended up playing as true freshmen. Dave Yulee, who played at Puyallup, now playing at Oregon. Deshaun Misa, who's now at Boise State, where Ava played. So they've got some good young talent too. Jamar Tassi had his first offer come in, I think I want to say at the end of January. He plays at Bethel High School in Spanaway. His first offer came in from Montana State. He's teammates with Zadrius Rainey-Saleh, who's the #1 player in the state of Washington 2025. So that's going to help Jamar get a lot more eyes on him over the course of the next few months when the evaluation period starts. And then Kenji Scanlon, who's at Yelm High School, he's there as well. Jubilee Utugalaye. So a good mixture of offensive linemen and defensive linemen, but Jamar's probably their top 2025 guy.
Nice. A couple other programs. So Provision, they're coming out of Spokane. Greg Peach, Jake Hoffman doing a great job running that program. I mentioned them because I think this is kind of a wait and see. Let's see what their kids look like coming out and how they stack up against these others. We know the Provision program is run really well. Greg Peach was a great player in his own right. Jake Hoffman, same thing. So excited to see the group they've assembled and bringing them out. So wanted to give them a shout out. But Huff, last team to talk about, we've talked about Big 12 7-on-7, but their 5-on-5 is equal, if not even better, as in terms of how good their teams are and the talent on them. Last year, they had a bunch of, I think their O-line, like all 5 guys you lined up across the board, went major Power 5. But talk a little bit now. Rich Moreno is in charge of the 5-on-5 program for Big 12. Jamar Howard is still the program coordinator, but Rich doing a great job of putting those linemen together. Look forward to seeing them. They got 3 high school teams and a middle school team this weekend. Talk a little bit about some of their kids.
Yeah, in fact, you mentioned that you look at you line up from them last year and they had 3 guys. They had 3 guys alone signed with the University of Oregon, which ended up having the #1 class in the Big Ten. Yes, it's still weird to say Oregon was the #1 class in the Big Ten. But I remember the first event last year, the first 5-on-5 that you ever did. Big 12 had Fox Crater at Oregon, Devin Brooks at Oregon, and Trent Ferguson at Oregon. They had a couple of other guys. Carson Osmus, who's going to Washington State, was with them last year. So they lost a good chunk of their talent to graduation, but they got some young talent. Luke Webb, who actually was playing in Southern California at J. Sarah down in Orange County, moved to Washington. He's got a number of offers. He's a top 15 player in the state. in 2025. Offers already from Washington State and UNLV, Northern Arizona as well. But he's an edge rusher. I think he probably projects to be more of a linebacker when he gets to college, but he's playing on the defensive line for Camas High School next season. They just got a new coach themselves, so he'll kind of be their guy, their big name. But one thing that we noticed with Big 12 is that they get some really good linemen to come through that will end up kind of being that next generation of guys. So I'm excited to see them this spring. We know what their 7-on-7 team has in terms of the talent there, but I'm really excited to see kind of that younger group of linemen come up, because I think that, Jamar's done a really good job, and where he's located too. I think that helps, because he gets Southwest Washington kids, and he gets a lot of the kids from the Portland area. And that certainly helps when he's got a good geographic pool, and really kind of putting people on notice in, I think, what, their 4th year as a program.
Yeah, he and I remember when he started out, he was comparing himself to these programs that had been around 8 years. I'm like, Jamar, you're year 1, my guy. These guys are in year 8. So, let's reassess in 4 years and 6 years. And he's certainly, I think, ahead of where a lot of those programs were at the same time frame. So it's pretty cool to see. So Huff, we got a great tournament scheduled for 7-on, a great tournament for 5-on. Going to be a lot of fun, a lot of talented teams, a lot of talented players, cool storylines. So excited. And then to just get a little ahead, we have our Battle at the Beach in LA in March 2nd, 3rd, and then we go to Northern Cal. And I mentioned that because a lot of these teams in 7-on and 5-on, we're going to see at those different spots, teams lining in college visits all around. We've been talking with Marshall Charrington at Cal and Cherokee Valeria at Sac State, so it's fun to see them getting those lined up. Our Portland tournament, April 6th, 7th, right now is our biggest numbers, and we got programs coming in from Oklahoma and Utah and Nevada and Southern and Northern Cal. So this circuit is just going to keep getting bigger in numbers, wider in diversity of teams and areas represented, 7-on and 5-on. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to just see as each tournament goes, and you watch the programs that keep rising and improving, and you see rematches, and then you see new matchups and new rivalries emerge. So we're in for a fun season. We're in February, and you and I already are exhausted, like we're at the end of the season. But my friend, buckle up, because we're just getting started with this off season.
Gosh, August is only 6 months away when we get a break, so we're counting down the days till August, and we haven't even finished February.
That there was that kids movie, like a Pixar or whatever, where it's the emotions in the brain, and there was like the guy who was in red who was always mad, and there was like the happy one, and then there was the blue one who was always sad. And I think, like, you and I on the emotions, like one of us is the blue guy, the sad, one is the red guy, the mad, and I think we just kind of switch places, like we go back and forth in the little cartoon characters of being mad and sad of what we're doing. But at the end of the day, all jokes aside, we love what we do. We have a lot of fun with it. It's fun to see kids changing their lives and programs doing that. And ultimately, the name on your sweatshirt, that's what both of us also have in common, is the passion for the Avery Huffman DIPG Foundation, Avery Strong, bravery, everything that that stands for, and that what we're doing in this. Obviously, our circuit is the Bravery Tour. You'll see branding. Anyone that comes to our event, you're going to see all kinds of branding out there, and you can look up Avery's story. You can go donate to the foundation and just keep raising awareness for it. We're in a fight to continue to try and get more money, more awareness for this, and ultimately a cure for it, and the support of families like the Huffmans that went through it. So I always want to make sure I mention that in what we're doing, because as much as it is about winning and losing and getting an offer and not getting an offer, it always puts things in perspective. And I think for you and I, that's the biggest thing. So I wanted to end with that, let you say a closing word if you want, and then we'll tap out.
So this actually is a big weekend for us in the foundation, because Friday the 16th will be the 8-year anniversary of Avery's passing. And, we're continuing to be more motivated than ever. The further away we get from her being with us, and the more motivated we become to share her story and to share her message. And last week during signing day, I was able to share her story briefly on our 24/7 Sports Signing Day show. And, I've talked about her a ton with you, Taylor, on this podcast, on various things. And I don't get overtaken with emotion very often, but, it's again, we're 8 years removed. You know, she
Crazy.
fought for 6.5, 7 months, and she was 7 years old and she passed away. So we've had more of her life with her be gone than with us, but it just emboldens us to fight back more for her. And when you guys are playing out there this weekend, I know you guys want to do the histrionics and do all the, you know, the grabassery that exists in 7-on-7. I guess it's fine. But remember what you're really playing for. You know, it's the picture on the trophy, not just the trophy.
Absolutely. Awesome. Couldn't have said it any better, Huff. Appreciate your time. I know you're super busy and now you got to go do your backhanded flex of like, yeah, I really got to go. I got this call to set up my visit to, Mexico for, this Cabo retreat we're doing to get ready for an all-star game, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I'll let you away on that one. Have a good day, everybody listening. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time.